My name is Rosalind Franken, and you're listening to How to Thrive After 35 Talk Radio. This is a show for all of you out there looking to live healthy and be happy for life. I'm the author of a book called The A-List, 9 Guiding Principles for Healthy Eating and Positive Living. This book was inspired by my own experiences as a cancer survivor who's also won my own battles with food, weight, and positive living challenges. I'm a motivational speaker and personal coach on a mission to help people everywhere thrive and lighten up for good in body, mind, and soul through smart eating, healthy weight management, stress reduction, and emotional resilience. You'll want to tune in each month as I bring you inspiring guests right here to help you lighten up and thrive in your life and not just survive. Be sure to have a paper and pen handy to take down important information we'll be sharing with you. To join my mailing list and Facebook fan page for my Lighten Up tips and updates on my upcoming guests here, visit my website at www.howtothriveafter35talkradio.com. That's How to Thrive After 35, the number 35, talkradio.com. We're going to have a quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll get on with the show.
PARC, a nonprofit agency in St. Petersburg, Florida, supports children and adults with developmental disabilities from 2 months to 80 years old. Founded in 1953, PARC's variety of services focus on fostering independence, enhancing quality of life, and experiencing life to the fullest, something we all deserve. To know more on how you can help or to tour PARC, call 727-345-9111 or visit www.parc-fl.org.
Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to How to Thrive After 35 Talk Radio with your host, Rosalind Franken. And I am so excited about today's show. We're going to be talking about how to rediscover self-love. And I have an incredible guest here with us who's going to share some wonderful insights. You are not going to want to miss a minute of this. And be sure to listen right to the end because my guest has something very special to offer you. So listen up, buckle up, and we're going to take you on a journey of rediscovering self-love. Now let's get on with the show.
Well, I am so excited to introduce someone so special to all of you listeners who are going to gain so much from this call. We are going to be talking, as I said, about rediscovering self-love, such an important topic, and who better to talk about that than the one and only Leela Francis. And let me tell you a little bit about Leela before we jump right in. As creator of Vividly Woman Tools and Training, Leela Francis is intensely devoted to aiding women and the men in their lives to personally flourish through her live presentations, special events, monthly community engagements, and experiential tools and enhanced life skills trainings. An internationally acclaimed dance movement facilitator for more than 20 years, Leela Francis is an esteemed industry expert in the field of body consciousness, self-actualization, and soulful personal healing work. Leela's diverse studies, extensive trainings, holistic shamanic initiations, I hope I said that right, shamanic initiations, and her own rich personal life experience add depth, dimension, and resounding credibility to her coaching with individuals and groups, both in the U.S. and abroad. Leela's knowledge base as an integrative body therapist, credible and popular yoga instructor, shamanic dance, and sacred circle facilitator have empowered and guided individual transformation to the lives of thousands of recipients of her gifts worldwide. Leela Francis has been recognized and presented as a valued keynote speaker and trainer and is confidently able to provide audiences large and intimate with inspiring wisdom and action strategies to connect their physical, spiritual, and intellectual selves. With grace, charm, wit, and supreme sensitivity, Leela motivates and moves people back into experiencing their bodies, channels her energy to assist a more connected sense to their own personal power, and allow for the safe, secure environment to open to connecting with others and the life force of personal body intelligence. Wow, what an intro. Leela, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rosalind. Thank you so much for having me and also for just reminding me of who who I am and sharing this with your listeners. I feel really, really blessed.
Well, there's so much more I could say. I mean, you have a wonderful bio, but I thought, I'd keep it to that and let you share more about yourself on this call, because that's what this is about, is letting listeners know who you are and what your expertise is and what you could bring to them on the topic of rediscovering self-love, because that is such an important topic to me, especially for women. It's such an important issue. And I would love to start by you sharing your perspective of why. Why is self-love such an important issue for women?
Sure thing. This is an issue that I'm very passionate about and very, very, very well acquainted with. I believe that self-love is so important for women, firstly because it's the foundation for everything. Women are so motivated and guided by our hearts. We naturally act on behalf of, what we feel empathically about and our compassion. It's just how we're wired. And so everything around us becomes a mirror for who we are. And if we are not extending love, and we can only extend love from, a place where we're feeling self-love, if we're not experiencing love for self, then that's what's going to be mirrored in the world around us. And so that's why it's so, so vital. And I'll get a little bit later, I'll get into, what are the areas that this really shows up in. But one of the things I want to say right off the bat, I want to mention a little bit about what self-love is and what it isn't, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions of what at least I'm talking about when I talk about self-love. So first of all, I want to just say what self-love is not. Self-love, doesn't mean that you have an impeccable relationship of approval with yourself all of the time, and that you never, ever, ever have any judgments about yourself or any negative self-talk. That's not what self-love is. I mean, that would be, I think, an unrealistic and artificial relationship with ourselves or with anybody, and I think it's just unrealistic. And I hope that if you take away, if your listeners take away anything from this call, it's to understand that if you're shooting for that kind of a relationship, I think you'll ultimately, you will not reach your goal, and you'll create a lot more suffering for yourself, because every time you experience judgment or negative self-talk, you will think you failed. So I just want to right off the bat say that is not what self-love is. What self-love is it's the ability to nourish and care for yourself when you see yourself really needing it. So, in other words, when you go through a period when you are beating up on yourself, or when you've quote unquote failed in a certain arena, you haven't lived up to your own expectations. If you're a self-loving person, then you know how to heal beyond that, and you know how to deal with those down periods so that they don't completely take you out, and they don't, as a result, ripple out into your world and become a living reflection of who you are. So I just wanted to start out with that to make sure that everybody understands that.
That is huge, and as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about one of the areas that I work with people is about emotional resilience. And so what you're talking about really, really feeds that, because you're talking that women, it's how do you be emotionally resilient? How do you overcome that negative self-talk and things that come up? Like you said, that's reality. Things happen. You go through down periods in your life, but how do you move forward beyond those times and not get stuck in the muck, so to speak? That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I think some of what we see out there can be quite a disservice to us as women. Whatever leads us to believe that there is a quick fix solution, and that once you get that, you will be healed and you will be a better person. I think that's a real disservice to us, because it's just not real. Life happens, and we are complicated and sensitive beings, and life affects us. And so we're going to have those down times, and it's just about, okay, how can I soothe myself and pick myself up from this experience, and that's what I think self-loving is. So yeah, we are definitely on the same page. I love that term, emotional resilience. Absolutely.
Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. And you've been doing this a while, and I'm just curious that how did you get involved with this kind of work? Like usually, when I talk to people, there's often a personal experience or something that triggers something in you to say, gosh, this is something I need to put out to the world and help people with. So what led you specifically to getting involved with this kind of work, helping women rediscover self-love?
Well, I've been working in the arena of somatic awareness, dance, healing through dance for many, many years, and that sprung out of the loss of my father when I was in my teens, and I used dance to heal from that. I was just naturally gravitated towards dance to process and express my grief. Many years so I already had this kind of foundation of interest in self-development and personal healing, and many years later, after already having an established practice and being very involved in the world of spiritual healing and spiritual awareness, I actually went through profound depression, and it was a lot of things. It was a lot of expectations that I had of myself. It was dealing with not having children and issues of infertility. It was huge financial, expectations that I had that I wasn't living up to. It was body image issues and coming to terms with, years and years of needing to portray myself in a certain way to the outside world in order to cover up all of the insecurities on the inside, and I thought that by looking good on the outside, I could hide what was really going on the inside. So all of that culminated at a certain point in my life, which was about 9 years ago, when I went through this depression, and so I went and I did a lot of work for that. I got the support that I could, because when we're going through that kind of emotional pain, it's often hard even to reach out and get the help that we need. But I did, go through some important healing processes and have some very loving people to support me through it. What I came out of it with was, and this was the biggest learning, and I'm so blessed that I got this peace, because I think spiritual seekers will spend years and years and years without really getting this peace. What I got was that, instead of changing who I am, I just really need to love who I am as I am. And that's going to be the greatest gift for me to really get, and to then for me to share with the world, is that it's not about changing me, it's really about loving me. And loving me being an ongoing process versus a goal that I'm going to arrive at.
That is really, really, I would say, a huge key. That was a huge gift that you learned. And it's funny how people have to sometimes go through a very painful or dark or difficult time in their life to come to those realizations. And I think some people do, and for some people it doesn't necessarily come right away, and they have to go through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering before, like you said, they get it, if they ever get it. So the fact that you were able to go through something like that and come to that realization about loving yourself along the journey, right? So for any type of self-improvement, like I think when you say it wasn't that I had to change, it's not about changing who you are, it's about, you said, loving yourself as you move forward, right? So if you're trying to improve your life, if there's an area or a goal that you're working on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is that if you're working towards something and, there's something you want and you whatever it might be, is to just love yourself in the process of getting there. It's not just about the destination. It's about the journey and loving yourself along the journey no matter what. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. It's such a huge, huge piece, and I think the more we get that, the less suffering we're gonna do. Yeah, and I feel that the personal development industry, in a lot of ways, perpetuates that quick fix. Got to get to the goals orientation, which perpetuates a lot of our suffering. So, indeed, it absolutely is the process, and that's such a cornerstone of the Vividly Woman work, is that we are all living artists, and it's not in the end piece. Actually, this was a quote that I recently was really enjoying from a book by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. I think it's called The Creative Fire, and she says it. She says that we are all artists, and that we're all artists in that it's not about what we create. It's about the creative and artistic process. And the sooner we get that about ourselves, the more we're living, rich lives. So absolutely, it totally is the journey. It's not the end result.
I'm listening to you, and as I'm listening, I'm thinking of conversations with people that I've coached even, and the idea that when you say loving yourself along the process, that it's not about, if they're dealing with a weight issue, for example, oftentimes, people look at, okay, a weight issue, okay, it's just something on their to-do list. I just want to get this done and put a check mark next to it, done, right? And it's the same thing with healing or any kind of change. Okay, I just want to get this done. But something like that, it has to do with your body, your self-image and who you are, and that self-love piece. It's not something on your to-do list that you just get done, because it's like, to me, it's like the operating system on your computer. It's something that is going on behind the scenes, whether you see it or not. It is happening all the time. And if that operating system is not functioning optimally, everything else off of it is going to be impacted. So it's an ongoing process. It's not something you just get done. And I think it's that self-love thing that you're talking about is kind of the same thing. That self-love is your operating system. Everything comes out of that. So it's not like you go to a workshop or you just read one book and bada bing, bada boom, you're done. It's something that has to be there all the time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, and it's an ongoing practice, and especially for everybody that's listening, think what's so important, because we're saying what has to be there, and I think it's at the heart of it all is a gentleness and a level of forgiveness with ourselves for even having to deal with this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to reach out my arms and give a great big hug to everybody that's on this call, because we're all dealing with the same thing. I want to be also really transparent and say, this is an issue that I deal with every day. And I think so many of us are suffering alone, thinking we're the only ones that go through this. And if anybody else knew, they think we were crazy. And what I love about the work that I do, both in groups and with individuals, is that, a very big part of the healing is that we start to understand that we are not alone. We're not crazy. We're not one of the chosen, few who were chosen to suffer endlessly. So just know that you're not alone, and that this is a daily practice. It's not a practice. It may not be a practice like going to sit on a mat or going to meditate for 20 or 30 minutes a day, and those things are good. But the dealing with the issues around self-love and the lack of it are practices that are a little bit more mobile than that. And that's what I want to share with all the callers today, is what are the little ways that we can become aware of the negative stuff that's going on in our minds and that is getting in the way of us really living our juiciest lives, and how can we deal with those moment to moment. So yeah, we're so on the same page, and I'm so so happy, Rosalind, that you're out there making a difference in so many people's lives. I love what you're all about, and feel very, very blessed to have found you and feel our sisterhood.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's coming together and sharing these messages that people need to hear. They need to hear it, and as people listen to this, you can listen to it once. You can download it to your computer and come back to it a week from now and digest it and reflect on it, and then listen to it again, because every time you listen to it, it may bring up different emotions, different thoughts. I want to ask you something. When it comes to women and improving in that area of self-love, working on it, what is it that gets in the way? Why is it that women have such a hard time with loving themselves?
Yeah, gosh. Why is it? That's a good question. Well, there's quite a few things. Stories from our past, issues, things that have happened in our past that are still simmering within us, that are, they're issues that weren't really resolved because we didn't have the tools to resolve them. Belief systems from our upbringing about who we are, other people's judgments, other people's standards. I mean, women, I read a psychological study not long ago that said that girls from the age of 11, basically at the age of 11, we are almost entirely externally referencing, meaning that we are looking outside of ourselves for the answers. So for what to like, what to wear, how to be, how to talk, who to be friends with, all of those, instead of looking inside and going, well, what do I really feel, we're looking outside of ourselves and saying, well, what does society want me to feel? What is the right way to feel? How will I fit in? So all of that really amounts to a whole bunch of self-betrayal. And the more that I betray myself, the less I love myself. I mean, it's obvious. It's an obvious, mathematical equation. If I keep betraying myself, if I keep lying to myself, then I'm going to keep not loving myself. I'm going to really start to dislike myself and maybe even end up hating myself because I've kept betraying myself. So those are big pieces. I think we also, and as part of that, is that we all have these unwritten contracts with other people in our lives. Like, I will continue to be the person that I am if you keep loving me. We are so petrified of losing the love of others that we would even betray ourselves. And then another really, really big one, and this is something that's a huge part of the Vividly Woman Embodied Leader training that I do, which takes place over 4 modules that women come, and actually these are live events, and women do very deep healing work. And what we focus our work largely around are the 3 power centers, the sensual, the emotional, and the intuitive power centers that are so vital for women being in our strength and our wisdom and our power. And the reality is that the culture that we live in chronically oppresses these 3 points of power. I call them the 3 inner fountains of feminine wisdom, our sensual, emotional, and intuitive. These are so and have been so oppressed in society. And so we take our cues, like I said, from the external world, and we shut them down, and we further shut them down in ourselves. And this contributes so much to our lack of self-love, because this is where our power comes from, and we've just largely turned off the tap. Now, it's so beautiful to see that we are living in a time where we're coming out of that. We're coming out of that, the darkness and the oppression around that. And you and I, Rosalind, we're women who are, really helping to make a difference in that arena. But those are really why we've ended up in this situation of this lack of self-love.
Oh, and again, as I'm listening to you, one of the things that comes into my head is, so many women, I find it's this striving for perfection, the expectations that we put on ourselves of perfection. is so, what I call it, causes that self-inflicted stress that absolutely deters us from that power of self-love that could be driving us, only we're letting these other things, as you say, hurt us. And that perfectionism, I think, is one area that could really be an issue for a lot of women, right? The idea that you got to be the perfect mom, the perfect daughter, the perfect friend, the perfect sister, the perfect, trying to be perfect in every role of your life, and it's just not humanly possible to be perfect all the time. So then you end up only seeing the lack of perfectionism, and then being disappointed in yourself and the sense of failure and all those things combined, and I think they all fit into so much of what you're saying. It's that lack of self-love that could really prevent you from having the healthy, happy life that I believe every woman desires and deserves. And that leads me to another question is, when you think of a woman who is lacking in the area of self-love, what are the risks associated with that lack of self-love?
Yeah, what are the risks? I think I want to answer that question, but I feel compelled. Before I do, I just want to invite anybody that's here, that's listening, to ask yourself that question for a moment. I, for one, feel it's really, really important, and especially since I just mentioned that girls from the age of 11 are already looking outside for the answers.
Yeah.
One of the best things that we as women can do for ourselves is to establish a habit of, before we take into consideration anybody else's answers, that we look inside, because I believe that we do have answers, and the truth lives inside of us. So I just want to take even half a minute to sit for a moment with anybody on this call. Ask yourself that question. What are the risks in your own life, the greatest risks that are associated with your lack of self-love? Which are the areas that are most suffering? So let's just pause for a moment and reflect on that. Okay, and if you have paper and pen, you may even want to make some notes, but it's very important to do that, and to also notice as you do that, do you reference that from inside of yourself, or are you still looking at your own life and how it measures up to the outside world to determine what are the areas that need improvement? So, for instance, I don't have, great word, Rosalind, perfect. My children aren't perfect. My children aren't doing such and such. They're not living up to certain expectations, and it's a result of my lack of self-love. Well, again, are you looking outside for the standards and the expectations to determine how your children should be? And that's exactly what perfectionism is, and it's what I mentioned earlier around external standards, chronically living into external standards. Perfectionism, and what's perfect is a random set of ideals that have been established by the outside world. And the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves as women is to start establishing our own standards on the inside and stop living into this quote-unquote perfect world that we see projected out in the media, or what we think is going on inside of other people's houses, because we have no idea. Just like nobody knows what's going on in our house. From the outside, it looks like everybody's living perfect lives. They have the right car and the right driveway, and we're all going through it. So we really have to pull the plug on that to stop perpetuating those false images. So now that you've, had a chance, you've looked inside, okay, what in my own life is suffering because of my lack of self-love? Now I want to tell you what I've seen working with, thousands of women in my programs and in one-on-one coaching. What I've seen are the three main risks. And I actually did a campaign about a year ago working on this issue of self-love. I kind of coined the name of a disease, which I call self-love starvation, and it's SLS is the acronym for that. And self-love starvation is doing exactly what it says it's doing. It's starving women of the right for a juicy and delicious life. So the three areas that are most importantly impacted by self-love starvation are, number one, relationship, our primary relationship with our beloved. And I don't know if you can relate to this, Rosalind, or anybody else on the call. Have you ever had a relationship where you are constantly trying to prove to your partner that they don't love you? Look at what you did. You forgot my birthday. You didn't buy me the right blah, blah. Look at the way you spoke to me. You don't love me. If you constantly find yourself trying to prove to your partner that she or he does not love you, guess what? That means that you're not loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I had this happen to me last year, actually. My husband, I was visiting my mother in Montreal. My husband and I live in Washington State. I was visiting my mother in Montreal. It was the first time I was with her for my birthday in years. And my husband, it was the day of my birthday, October 27th. My husband, he called me. And we're talking away, and he doesn't say happy birthday to me. And so finally I say, kind of a special day today, and
hello.
And he doesn't get on, he doesn't figure it out. So I say, well, it's my birthday. And he said, what? He said, your birthday's on the 27th. And I said, well, it is the 27th. He said, oh, my God. He said, I thought it was the 26th today. Okay. He said, I was all ready to say happy birthday to you tomorrow, but I thought today was the 26th. So my husband is retired, so he really doesn't pay attention to the dates, the dates anymore. So what I got out of that, which was very, very different for me through looking at myself in past relationships and looking at myself over the years through all the work I've done around self-love. In the past, oh my gosh, what I would have done is I would have gotten so angry, and I would have said to him words like, you know what, you don't really care about me, you don't really love me, that just proves it. And I didn't do that because I have such a level of care for myself, and I don't have to keep asking him to prove it to me. So it was a real eye-opener for me that I could stay in love for myself and not go into blame about whether or not he knew, what day it was and when it was my birthday. So if you're just take note, if you're doing that in your primary relationship, you're putting a lot of stress on your relationship, and you really should be looking inside of inside of yourself for the love that you keep wanting to get from your partner. So that's one area that is at a great risk that you could be putting a lot of pressure on if you're not loving yourself. Another area is your relationship to your children. If you're a mom, this is so, so vital. One of my co-facilitators, my dear sister, Randy Markel, she's a Vividly Woman co-facilitator, and she's a graduate of the Vividly Woman Embodied Leader training. She filmed a video on this last year, and anybody who emails me, if you're interested in that, I'll send you the link on YouTube, because she did about a 9-minute video on this. She has 4 kids, and she spoke so eloquently about what it's like to be a mom and not love yourself, and the impact on your children, and the tremendous risk of that they incur when their mom doesn't love herself. And she actually went and she interviewed her kids in order to do this video, which was absolutely brilliant, and to get their take on what they were experiencing with her, currently with all of the work that she was doing through the embodied leader training and how they were perceiving her previous to that. So it was very, very interesting. Bottom line, whatever's going on inside of you, your kids, that's what your kids are getting. So if you are chronically blaming yourself and judging yourself and beating yourself up and making yourself wrong and not living up to expectations and standards outside of yourself, guess what? Your kids, that's what your kids are learning. Because way beyond anything you say about what they should do or how they should be, they are picking up the subtle cues and what the frequency that you are vibrating at. And if you're not loving yourself, that's what they're learning how to do. So I know I was a stepmom. I know that that's the number one important thing for us. And for biological moms, it's just, 100 times more important. So it's so, so vital that you get this as a mom. And then finally, just want to speak to, our careers. For those of us that are entrepreneurs, or if you have a job, you can pretty much link what's going on in your work life today to how much you are loving yourself or not. And there's such a direct correlation between those two. When you're loving yourself, you are a vibrant, attractive force in the universe that people want to be around. It's as simple as that. If you want more clients, if you want more customers, if you want more business, then you have got to be an attractive force in the universe. And when you don't love yourself, you are way less attractive. When you're out there loving yourself, doing what you love, sharing what your passion is, that is an active practice of loving yourself. When I'm up there on stage doing what I love, getting people into their bodies, dancing their hearts open, I am, what's the word I want to say? You can't not love me. Not to be vain, but you can't not love me when I'm loving myself. And that goes for you, Rosalind. It goes for every person, every woman on this call. People cannot not love you when you are loving you. Simple. So those are the three main areas. And as you can see, look around at your life. There isn't much else. Of course, there's our personal health, which is a great risk if we're chronically beating up on ourselves. And Rosalind, I know that you can speak to that very, very passionately because you've been through such amazing journeys with your own health. But as we can see, there's not a stone unturned when it comes to self-love.
There's so much power in what you said, Leela. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. It's when you say relationship, I mean, that says it all. So it's relationship. It's how you vibrate out into the world. And the one thing that resonated with me strongly was when you talked about career also, because I have worked in many jobs before doing what I'm doing now, and that feeling of when you're not honoring your true gifts and doing what you were put on this earth to do, and you feel like, in my case, I remember doing types of jobs where I felt like a fraud. I was playing the role of that person in that job, and it sucked the soul out of me. It was suffering because I knew I wasn't being true to myself and acknowledging what my true gifts are. And there's certain things that sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes help to figure out what that is, to be able to love yourself enough to say, you know what, I'm going to work every day, and I don't even like what I'm doing. And you're spending like at least 8 hours a day doing something you don't love. That can have a tremendous risk on your health, on your life, on your relationships, every which way, because it's a lot easier to love yourself when you are being honest with yourself and honoring who you really, really are, and giving yourself permission. Giving yourself permission, I think that's a huge piece for women, is to give yourself permission to honor who you really are. And that's so much tied into the whole self-love piece that you're talking about. And I love that self-love starvation. I think it's an epidemic for women.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's time that we really wake up and feeding that part of ourselves. And I say to women who come to me, with, let's say, their issue is around eating, and they want to, I got to eat better, and I want to manage my weight better. And I say, you know what? It's not just about the food you feed your body. It's the thoughts you feed your mind, and it's the emotions you feed your soul. And I can add to this now, listening to you. It's the love that you feed your true self, and feeding that self-love. There's no reason for the starvation, because that starvation equals suffering. So what you're saying is so hugely important, Leela, and for any woman listening, is to eat this up, eat this up, what Leela's sharing with you. And I have one last question here, and then I want to get into some things that you have for the listeners. But what are some important steps, real steps that women can take to get back on track to loving themselves and experiencing the self-worth that we've been talking about?
Okay, yeah, I really want to share this. I'm going to give you 5 tips that correspond to the signature system that I use in all of my work. It's called the 5 Textures of Vividly Woman. And by the way, for anybody that's listening that doesn't know about the Vividly Woman community, it is a community of women who are devoted to really embodying, dancing, and living our juiciest power. And all of the tools and the trainings that I offer are designed to deliver this system, this 5 textures of Vividly Woman, so that it becomes almost a language and a process that you embody and can refer to on your own. I'm going to be telling you a little bit about a special offer I have with some of the tools that will actually, allow you to embody this on your own. But just before I do that, I want to give you these 5 tips. And these are such easy things to do and to become aware of any time that you start to notice yourself moving into kind of a negative place and you're seeing, you're catching yourself, wow, I'm really not loving myself right now. These are 5 ways that you can kind of ease yourself out of that and move into a more positive light with yourself. So the first texture of Vividly Woman is sense. So the first tip I want to give you is get into the moment through your 5 senses. Okay, you're noticing that you're having negative thoughts about yourself. Notice the texture of whatever your body's touching in the moment. Notice fragrances around you. Notice the colors that you're seeing. Notice what you're hearing, and notice what you're tasting. Getting yourself out of the thinking mind into the sensual self that you can access through your senses is an amazing way to take you out of that that downward spiral that the negative thought cycle will propel you into. Okay, so get into your senses, and that is the first tip. The second one corresponds to the second texture of Vividly Woman, which is ground. And this is a very, very important one. They're all important, but I have to say that this has been the number one thing that has made a profound difference in my life. Lack of self-love starts in our mind. It starts with thoughts. As soon as you see those happening, reference your body. Notice what is happening in your body. Stop obsessing with what you're thinking and the stories that you're creating in your mind, and go to what's happening in your body. Now, for a lot of people, that can be very scary. If you've ever danced with anxiety, anxiety is very uncomfortable in our body. Pain is very uncomfortable, so we chronically leave our bodies and we go into the stories in our mind. Unfortunately, what happens is that as soon as you leave your body and go into your mind, what you're doing is you are living into the story, which just keeps the uncomfortable sensation in your body alive. So I'm not going to go into this too much at length. I just want to say it's a big part of what we learn and become masters at through Vividly Woman. I just want to remind you, the next time you see a story taking shape in your mind, leave the story and go to what are the sensations in your body. I feel warmth in my arms. I feel a pounding in my heart. I feel a bleeding sensation in my belly. Whatever it is, go there and be there. And I guarantee that what you'll find is that you can actually endure what's happening there, and it will begin to dissolve. Okay? So for more on any of what I'm saying, you know that you can always contact me. I do one-on-one coaching. I do live events. And all of this is available to you also through the package that I'm going to tell you about, so that you may not get all of it and become a master at it right now, but you know where to get more information. And I'm always here for you. You can always email me. The third texture is mobilize. And what I'm going to invite you to do whenever you see yourself going into this negative pattern of lack of self-love, identify for yourself what is meaningful for you. Who do you love? What is your purpose on this planet? What are your favorite things? What really gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes you want to serve and do what you're most passionate about? What is the most important thing in your life? At my Mexico retreat, we do a practice, a 30-minute walk along the beach, the most beautiful deserted beach, where in silence I pre-brief the group, the women, and I have them, creating this scenario where it's our last 30 minutes on this planet. There's nobody to call. There's nobody to email. It's just you and the ocean and the sky and the seagulls and the pelicans, and this is your last 30 minutes. And it's like, whew, you drop down into this place where what really matters is what your life is about in those 30 minutes. And that's where we need to go. We need to keep identifying what is the most meaningful thing in our lives to take us out of that, those crazy stories that we weave that perpetuate the lack of self-love. The fourth texture is harness. Okay, this is a huge, huge topic. This is about creating self-sustaining energy in our lives so that we don't have to work so hard. As it pertains to self-love and the lack of it, harness is about, once you've identified what's meaningful to you, harnessing is acting in alignment with those things. It sounds really, really simple, but when you start to look around at your life, you might actually find that a lot of what you're spending your time doing has nothing to do with what really matters most. And what's important for you to do is identify what's meaningful to you, as I said, in Mobilize, and then start to act in alignment with those things. And the other piece is, for the things that you don't particularly love doing, like taking out the garbage or driving the kids to school every morning or whatever it is, it's absolutely essential that you start identifying the meaning in everything that you're doing, even what you don't love to do. Look, like taking out the garbage, it's really not one of my favorite things to do, but the reason it's meaningful for me to take out the garbage is because I wouldn't have garbage if I didn't have wealth. And that's why having a garbage to take out is meaningful to me. It's also meaningful to me that somebody's going to pick up that garbage, and I don't have to live in a ditch somewhere in a slum where garbage is surrounding me. So it's absolutely essential when living into self-love that you identify what's meaningful and that you act in alignment with that. And then finally, the last texture, which is express. In express, what this is about is, first of all, speaking your truth. If you are chronically betraying yourself, as I said earlier, and not saying what's true for you, you will be creating such horrible stories of self-hatred. It's just awful. And if you look at your life, you'll see that. You'll see that that's a lot of where the lack of self-love stems from. And then the other place where express comes into relevance here is I want to invite you to choose activities that help you to express yourself, like dance, like singing. I just started taking singing lessons. Oh, my God, what a huge portal into the depth of my emotions. Dancing, singing, drawing. Find ways, gardening, sewing, knitting, whatever. Find ways to express yourself creatively when you're going into that downward spiral, okay? So, again, these are tips. These are practices, meaning that it's like you have your own toolbox here. There's 5 tools in your toolbox for self-love. Write these down. Make a list for yourself so that when you see those negative thoughts happening, sometimes I'll wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night and I can't fall back asleep because I'm having negative thoughts and stories that are starting. I'm feeling anxiety in my body, whatever it is. I will go to that toolkit and I will do one of those. I'll start sensing. I feel the bed and the sheets under me. I'm noticing warmth, whatever. I guarantee that this toolkit is very, very powerful. Okay?
This is huge, Leela, and just what you said, I was going to actually comment on that because when I know for me when I can't sleep at night or when I hear clients talking about that, saying, but I have trouble sleeping at night because, oftentimes you go to bed and you're thinking about your to-do list for the next day, or you have some sort of worry about, well, what if this, what if that, and you're playing these things in your mind over and over and mulling and mulling. And I do exactly what you just said and suggest that is that, you're so inside your own head that if you stop and pause, I love that word pause that you used earlier, just to stop and pause and have the silence and turn it off for a second. And what I do is I just open up my ears. I just listen. And all of a sudden I'm hearing all these sounds in the room, these little sounds in the dark. And I go like, I didn't hear those a second ago because I was too inside my own head. I couldn't hear or notice anything. All I noticed what was going on inside my own head. And it works because you've got to get out of your head and into the moment. So all that worrying and thinking of the to-do list the next day, you're not even living in the present moment. You're totally oblivious to your body and the present moment. So I think everything you're saying is about getting, like you say, getting grounded, getting closer to the real moment of what is really going on and getting outside of your own head. And I love the five tips you shared. Those are really, really powerful. Creating self-sustaining energy and acting in alignment. That ties back to what you were talking about earlier about those relationship pieces and honoring, again, it's honoring who you are and knowing yourself. A lot of people don't take the time to even get to know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerful. So you mentioned a few times that you have some things that you'd like to offer to listeners because, they heard the 5 tips and maybe you're thinking, well, that all sounds really great, but how do I do it? How do I make that happen for me? Well, that's when sometimes you might need to reach out for that help that you need to actually put these things into practice. So I'm sure that's part of what you're going to be sharing with us right now. We do have a few minutes, so please take the time to share what you have to offer.
Okay. Well, if you would, whether you do it now or you do it later, please take this down. This is the web page where you can see the package that I've put together for you. It's www.leela, Leela, Francis, FRANCIS.com. That's all lowercase, and then /MC, like Mickey Mouse, M, and car, C, that's uppercase, MC, /self_love.htm, and that's all lowercase. So www.leelafrancis.com /MC uppercase, and then /self_love.htm. So everything is lowercase except for the MC.
And I'll repeat it again at the end. So
okay, great. And so on this page, you will find the special package that I've put together for you, which includes the Vividly Woman monthly online community. And this is a 10-month program that takes place from September to June every year. And what I'm offering you here is a lifetime membership. It includes a monthly curriculum, and by the way, the whole community is around the 5 textures. So you get the monthly community you get the monthly curriculum, which is readings and exercises and activities to help you to embrace and embody one texture per month. And then I also do an interview with a different amazing expert every month, and I do a live sister circle call so that you can call in and we have a sharing circle. Sharing in circle and sacred space is such a beautiful way to receive wisdom from the world around you, but to also become a channel for wisdom. And personally, I believe that that's how we as women step into our power, is knowing that we are channels for wisdom. So that's what the Vividly Woman monthly community is about. And you also get to plug into a circle of sisters who are also on this path, which the value of that is just, you could not put a price on that. To be in a community of like-minded and like-hearted women is just phenomenal. And the price for the online community is $650, but what I'm going to offer you is a very special, very, very special deal as we move down the line here. Another item in the package is the Vividly Woman Toolkit, which includes my Vividance DVD, the Radiant Heart Groove DVD and CD set. You can read more about these on the page. The Vivid Existence Body and Breath Meditation CD, and my book, Textures, Inspirations and Practices for a Life Richly Lived, which is also about to be we're just launching the second edition of that book, which I'm very, very excited about. It's even better than the original, so you're going to be getting the new one when you order this. That package would be $110, and then finally, I'm also giving you a bottle of my Vividly Woman gorgeous daily ritual body lotion. It's so important for us as women to be establishing a healthy and loving relationship with our body. It's a huge dimension of the Vividly Woman work. And so I was really inspired to create a Vividly Woman body lotion that we could use as a daily ritual. And I really believe that this is a spiritual practice. Every day after your bath or your shower, just going to this lotion. It's a beautiful blend of rose and jasmine, or rose and jasmine and vanilla. It's so delicious you could eat it. But what you're going to do is going to just slather it all over your body and just make friends with your body and discover what are the ways that your body loves to be touched. Where does your body love to be touched? So many women have, just ostracized our bodies from our lives, just left our bodies completely. We don't want to touch our bodies. We don't want to look at our bodies. And one of the big steps in coming home is to establish this daily ritual of nourishing our skin and moisturizing our skin and then smelling delicious for the rest of the day. So that's what the Vividly Woman Gorgeous Body Lotion is about. And all of that together, as you can see below, would come to $780, but what I'm offering it to you for today and until November 24th, and maybe we'll extend that a day since this recording is going out a couple of days late because of our technical difficulties. I'm going to extend that to the 25th or the 26th, let's say, November 26th. I'm offering that to you for $89. So just imagine you get lifelong membership in the Vividly Woman community. You get the DVDs and CD toolkits and the book, and you get the lotion all for $89. So, just do the math. You can see that you're saving $690, and you have an ongoing membership in a sisterhood, in a program for women who are really devoted to embodying, dancing, and living our power as vibrant leaders, as embodied leaders in the world today.
That is amazing, Leela.
Isn't it?
It's an amazing deal. And I thought, as I was listening, I thought of something that could be fun to do as well. As people are listening to this episode, this is posted on my Facebook fan page. That's the Rosalind Franken Facebook fan page. So when you go onto Facebook, just do a search under Rosalind Franken fan page. It's ROSLYN, and the last name is Franken, FRANKEN. So if you go to my fan page and click on like, join my fan page, and then where you see the posting of the interview, if you put a comment, a wonderful comment of your experience of Leela in this interview for the first, 25 people who put a comment on there, I will include a free copy of my book, an e-version copy of my book called The A-List, 9 Guiding Principles for Healthy Eating and Positive Living. That's $15.95 if you ordered it off my website, but I'll give it to you free because I just want you to put your comments on there on Facebook and share the interview. Share it with your communities to help Leela get her word out, and just join in and sign up for my newsletter. You could do that from my fan page, join my list, because I want you to be exposed to as many people with similar messages, like-minded people who have such inspiring, uplifting messages to share. Those are the kinds of people who I interview on this show, and those of you who follow me regularly know that. So, Leela, I want to thank you so much for your everything, for your insights, your tips, your wonderful offer. It's fantastic, and I think you said it expires, you said when? November 26th?
Yeah, I'll give it to the 26th.
I think November 26th is great, gives people enough time to take advantage of it. And don't forget, this is you can download this to your computer, so if you need to hear it again, just to see everything it's included, and I will repeat the URL at the end of the show so that you can be sure to go to the page because the description of everything is there, and that's where you can go and get this $89. What's the regular value?
$780.
$780 for $89. I mean, these tough economic times, we're all looking for deals, and we can get them. And I think this is an investment in yourself, right? It's very easy. We can go out for a beautiful dinner and think nothing of spending, $100 on a fancy dinner. That's done. But to spend $89, an investment in yourself of something that's going to have lasting value. Seriously, go to the website and go get this package. So, Leela, I want to thank you again for being a wonderful guest. It was great to have you here. And who knows, maybe we'll put our two minds and two hearts together and who knows what we could co-create or bring to the world, or who knows what the future holds. We need to keep in touch and maybe have you back again at some later time. What do you think of that?
I love that, Rosalind. It was just great to work together and to share our life paths, and it was just very exciting, and I feel so blessed to have found you in my life, and I look forward to more creative opportunities together. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Okay, Rosalind. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
That wraps up another episode of How to Thrive After 35 Talk Radio with your host, Rosalind Franken. I want to thank Leela Francis once again for being such a wonderful guest on the show, and I know all of you listening gained tremendous benefit and insights from Leela. If you want more of Leela, be sure to check out her website where she describes the special offer that she has for you. And remember, it expires November 26, 2011, so get it while you can. It's at www.leelafrancis.com/MC/self_love.htm. And go to my website at howtothriveafter35talkradio.com, where you can join my Facebook fan page and sign up for my newsletter so I can send you tips and articles and things to help you lighten up in your life, and also let you know about upcoming guests that I have right here on the show. I want to thank you for being here. I welcome you back next time, and in the meantime, keep all the good stuff going.